My wife took off her ring, declaring, "I'm going to find someone who appreciates my free spirit." I nodded. Then I hired a PI who documented her free-spirited encounters with multiple men. I presented this at our divorce mediation when she demanded spousal support. She got pennies, and now she was frantically calling her lawyer. Original post I-40. I'm still navigating the aftershock. It's been a little over a week since my wife of 10 years, Gabriella, 42F, performed her one-woman show titled My Grand Liberation, effectively detonating our marriage. Picture this. Tuesday evening. I'm Logan, an engineer, a creature of logic. I'm decompressing with a basketball game. Gabriella makes her entrance, all flowing drama, positions herself squarely in front of the TV, and with the flourish of a stage magician, removes her wedding ring. She places it on the coffee table as if it's a relic. "Logan," she intoned, voice heavy with manufactured pathos, "I cannot, will not, continue to suffocate in this beige prison of conformity. I am a free spirit, Logan. I am meant to soar, to explore my untamed passions, to unite with a soul who celebrates my vibrant essence, not one who attempts to dim my light." I hit mute. "Dim your light? Gabriella, what on earth are you talking about?" We had a stable life. Comfortable. Apparently, comfortable was her code for soul-crushing. "I am talking about embracing life in its most vivid technicolor," she declared, a wild look in her eyes. "I am embarking on a sacred journey to rediscover myself, to experience unbridled joy." A dramatic sweep of her hand towards the window suggested a waiting chariot of adoring new suitors. "And what about us?" I managed, a cold knot forming in my stomach. "There is no us if I am not living my most authentic truth." And with that, she snatched a pre-packed overnight bag, the kind of detail that screams premeditation, her yoga mat, and made her grand exit. No discussion about finances, our assets, the house, mine, premaritally, a fact I was suddenly profoundly grateful for. Just a theatrical farewell. The following morning, after a night of replaying her speech, my analytical side took over. "Free spirit," she'd proclaimed. What were the legal and financial implications of such a spirit taking flight from a marriage? I took a personal day. My first call was to a locksmith to secure my home. My second was to a highly recommended private investigator, Mr. Howard. Discreet, thorough, exactly what I needed. "My wife has recently departed," I explained to him, "on what she terms a journey of self-discovery to explore her free spirit. She has vacated the marital home to pursue this. I require comprehensive documentation of her activities, for clarity, as I anticipate divorce proceedings." I provided Gabriella's description, her car details. A canary yellow beetle, she unironically called her Freedom Chariot. Mr. Howard, a man who'd clearly heard it all, quoted his rates. Retainer paid. He assured me surveillance would begin immediately, and he'd provide an initial summary of findings within a couple of weeks, with more detailed reports to follow. It's been just over a week. The new locks are on, the house is quiet. Gabriella hasn't tried to contact me. I'm just waiting for Mr. Howard's first insights. She wanted her freedom. I was just ensuring I had a well-documented understanding of how she chose to use it. Update 1, approx. 3 weeks post-declaration. The anticipated storm arrived. About 2.5 weeks after Gabriella's dramatic flounce, with no word from her, a thick manila envelope landed on my doorstep, courier delivered. Inside, a typed list of demands from Gabriella, clearly composed in a state of peak delusion. No personal note, just a cold, itemized bill for her spiritual freedom. The highlights of her demands: monthly self-actualization grant, $2,500, because apparently, enlightenment isn't cheap. Holistic wellness and expansion fund, $1,500, for organic juice cleanses, aura alignments, and probably those sacred geometry art supplies. My continued payment of her car insurance and cell phone, both were on my family plans, an oversight I was already rectifying. And the absolute showstopper, a demand that I compensate her for her loss of access to the marital home's creative energy. Essentially asking me to pay her rent because she'd chosen to leave my premarital house. The sheer, unadulterated nerve of it was almost impressive. This wasn't a request, it was a decree from Queen Gabriella of Delusionville. Before I could even call my newly retained lawyer, Miss Leslie, Gabriella's sister, 40F, launched a phone offensive. Alexis has always treated Gabriella like a delicate oracle, and me like the caveman who didn't understand her mystical utterings. Logan. Gabriella is beside herself. How could you be so callous as to lock her out of her own home and ignore her perfectly reasonable requests for support during this vulnerable transition? Gabriella must have discovered the new locks when a planned, quick pop-in for more stuff was thwarted. Alexis, I stated calmly, Gabriella abandoned my premarital home after declaring her intent to seek other partners. She has made her choices. Her reasonable requests are frankly outrageous. She is finding herself. You should be supporting her journey, not obstructing it with your petty cruelty. She's talking to a lawyer, Logan. She'll take you for everything. Click. The family party line was established. I was the villain for not funding my wife's voyage into infidelity. Later that week, I had my first detailed consultation with Ms. Leslie and also received Mr. Howard's initial comprehensive report. It was illuminating. Mr. Howard had identified 3 primary male associates. Guitar Randy, actual name Randy Kerr, a part-time barista with a penchant for open mic nights. Lewis, actual name Lewis Mulligan, a slick operator involved in a multi-level marketing scheme for questionable wellness products. And Moonbeam Russell, actual name Russell Schultz, currently unemployed, describing himself as a shamanic healer. The report included times, dates, locations of their meetings with Gabriella, and discrete photographs. Mr. Howard also noted, surveillance indicates several other less frequent male contacts. Investigation into these individuals is ongoing. This was just the tip of the iceberg. Miss Leslie reviewed Gabriella's demands and Mr. Howard's initial report with a steely gaze. Her request for creative energy compensation for a house she abandoned to pursue extramarital relationships is novel and legally laughable. Our strategy was clear. Respond firmly, document everything. Miss Leslie sent a formal letter to Gabriella, since she hadn't provided lawyer details yet, stating that all communication must now be through legal counsel. I would not be funding her self-actualization, and that her car insurance and phone plan would cease under my name at the end of the current billing cycle. The wailing voicemail Gabriella left was Oscar-worthy. Alexis followed with another, accusing me of trying to leave Gabriella destitute and stranded. Apparently, free spirits don't factor in practicalities like paying their own bills. Update 2, approx 6 weeks post-declaration. Gabriella finally got her legal act together, such as it was. Her chosen champion, a Mr. Phillip, whose letterhead looked like it was designed in 1998. His opening salvo of demands was even more grandiose than Gabriella's initial list. Exclusive use and possession of my house, still beating that dead horse. Spousal support of $6,000 per month, because her nascent career as a visionary artist was allegedly stifled by the drudgery of being married to an engineer. Her art mostly consisted of painting mandalas on driftwood. A 60-40 asset split in her favor, of course. Naturally, I was to cover her legal fees. And a new gem, damages for acute emotional distress and the suppression of her authentic creative self. Miss Leslie's response was a masterclass in polite but firm legal dismantling. She reiterated that the house was my separate property, proposed a fair division of actual marital assets, which were minimal, and stated a zero spousal support position, citing Gabriella's abandonment of the marriage and her documented conduct. Mr. Phillip, perhaps sensing he couldn't bully his way to victory, opted for mediation. The entitlement, however, wasn't confined to legal letters. Gabriella's mother, Judith, 65F, a woman who earnestly believed Gabriella communed with angels, called me, voice trembling with emotion. Judith. Logan, this has to stop. Gabriella is making mistakes, yes, she's lost, but she's a sensitive soul. These men she's associating with, they aren't good for her. She needs your stability, your financial security, to help her heal and find her way back. Me. Judith, Gabriella is an adult who made conscious choices. Her healing seems to involve a revolving door of men, and I will not be the financial enabler for it. All financial discussions will occur at mediation. I then politely disengaged. Then came the underhanded tactics. My HR department received an anonymous email. It alleged I was misusing company time and resources for a vindictive personal campaign, and that my erratic behavior and emotional instability due to severe marital discord were creating a hostile work environment. My boss, who knows my work ethic and professionalism, was skeptical. HR investigated, found zero evidence. I'd been meticulously careful, using only personal devices and time for divorce matters, and the complaint was dismissed. Miss Leslie, however, logged it as another instance of bad faith tactics. Next, a fraud alert from my bank. Gabriella had attempted to use the numbers from an old supplementary credit card, one I was the primary account holder for, and she was merely an authorized user on. I'd shredded the physical card years ago and thought the authorized user status was long canceled. She must have saved the details on some obscure online crystal shop. Her attempted purchase, a $2,000 platinum-infused Ascension pyramid. The transaction was declined because on Miss Leslie's early advice to secure all financial avenues, I'd already contacted the bank to ensure any old authorized user privileges for Gabriella were definitively revoked, and spending limits on any potentially overlooked secondary numbers tied to my accounts were reduced to $1. Another documented instance of attempted financial maneuvering. Mediation day arrived. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Me and Miss Leslie, composed and prepared. Gabriella, looking more frayed than free, sat with Mr. Philip, who fidgeted constantly. The mediator, Miss Kayla, exuded calm professionalism. Mr. Philip began painting Gabriella as the tragic heroine, a victim of my supposed emotional neglect, forced to seek solace and validation in the arms of, well, he glossed over that part. He rehashed their outrageous demands. When Mr. Philip paused, Miss Leslie leaned forward. Miss Kayla, Mr. Philip, while my client is amenable to a fair and equitable division of assets accrued during the marital union, the demand for substantial ongoing spousal support is frankly untenable given Miss Gabriella's last name's choices and conduct. She then succinctly outlined Gabriella's free spirit pronouncements, her abandonment of the marital home, and her immediate and ongoing pursuit of multiple extramarital relationships. Mr. Philip blustered. My client was experiencing profound emotional vulnerability. She was merely seeking human connection. Miss Leslie's eyebrow arched. Human connection, or a replacement lifestyle funded by the husband she deserted? Which brings us to a crucial point. She paused, letting the silence hang. Before we discuss spousal support further, we believe it is essential for all parties to have a clear and comprehensive understanding of Miss Gabriella's last name's activities since she left the marital home. To this end, we engaged a licensed private investigator, Mr. Howard. The color drained from Mr. Philip's face. Gabriella looked like she'd swallowed a stone. Miss Leslie produced a professionally bound, rather thick document. Mr. Howard's full and final report. This report, she stated, sliding it across the table, contains detailed, dated, and photographically documented evidence of Miss Gabriella's last name's sacred journey to rediscover herself. Mr. Philip tentatively picked it up. As he flipped through the pages, his expression shifted from bluster to horror. The photographs were undeniable. Gabriella with Randy Kerr at various dimly lit bars. Gabriella canoodling with Louis Mulligan in his flashy and likely leased car. Gabriella and Russell Schultz in a very public, very intimate aura cleansing on a secluded beach. And as Mr. Howard had diligently continued his work, the report also detailed her encounters with Bobby Patel, a fellow attendee from her advanced tantric yoga workshop, and Johnny Fitzpatrick, a man she'd met during a wine and consciousness evening. Her free spirit had indeed been soaring through multiple bedrooms. Miss Kayla, the mediator, glanced discreetly at a few of the more compromising photos Mr. poured. Philip was staring at, her professional mask unwavering, but a certain understanding dawning in her eyes. This is an outrageous fabrication, an invasion of privacy. Mr. Philip stammered, his voice lacking conviction. Miss Leslie was unmoved. These are corroborated facts, Mr. Philip. Facts that directly refute your client's claim to be a wronged, dependent spouse deserving of substantial support. In this state, as you know, adultery significantly impacts considerations for alimony, and while exploring one's free spirit has a certain romantic ring to it, when such exploration involves a consistent and documented pattern of extramarital sexual relationships, the court tends to use a less poetic term, adultery. Numerous counts, to be precise. The fight visibly deflated from Mr. Philip. Gabriella finally broke, not into quiet sniffles, but into heaving sobs of pure, unadulterated rage and thwarted entitlement. He made me do it, she shrieked. His coldness, his boring beige soul. Miss Leslie, cool as ice, your client's subjective assessment of my client's soul does not create a legal entitlement to his future income. particularly while she was actively and repeatedly violating her marital vows. The mediation dynamic shifted irrevocably. The grandiose demands shriveled under the harsh light of documented reality. Final update. The hours that followed were less a negotiation and more a carefully managed surrender on their part. Miss Leslie was a scalpel, dissecting every last shred of their preposterous claims. Gabriella alternated between furious glares and pitiable whimpers, neither of which moved Miss Leslie an inch. The final signed agreement. Spousal support. A one-time final lump sum payment of $7,500. This was explicitly not termed alimony, but as a transitional allowance to assist her in establishing an independent household. Not a penny more, not ever. Asset division. Our actual joint marital assets were few. A small joint savings account was split 50-50, and she was allowed to take specific items of mutually agreed upon furniture. My premarital assets, crucially the house and the significant majority of my retirement accounts, remained 100% mine. She received a legally mandated, very small percentage of the marital growth portion of my retirement funds, a figure that was laughably insignificant compared to her initial demands. Debts. All debts incurred by Gabriella since the date of separation were her sole responsibility. This included the outstanding loan on her rapidly depreciating yellow Freedom Chariot. Legal fees. Each party to bear their own. This was a quiet victory, as it spared me the further insult of funding her frivolous legal battle. As Gabriella scrawled her signature on the agreement, her hand shook, not with sorrow, but with impotent fury. She shot me a venomous look. "You'll regret this, Logan. You'll die old and alone in your sterile, beige prison." "Perhaps," I replied, my voice even. "But I won't be doing it broke from bankrolling your free-spirited escapades, Gabriella. May your life be as colorful as you claim to desire." The aftermath has been nothing short of blissful relief. Gabriella, I heard, had a spectacular meltdown in Mr. Phillips' office. He reportedly advised her that she was extremely fortunate given the evidence and that his firm would not be representing her further. Her familial flying monkeys, Alexis and Judith, made a few more tearful, accusatory calls. I didn't engage. Their voicemails were forwarded to Miss Leslie, who dispatched a polite but unequivocal cease and desist communication. The calls stopped. Word travels. Gabriella's vibrant new life apparently stalled when the financial pipeline, i.e. me, was definitively severed. Randy, Louis, Russell, Bobby, and Johnny all seemed to lose interest in her spiritual essence, once it no longer came with a comfortable safety net. Her yellow beetle was reportedly repossessed. The last I heard, she had retreated to her mother Judith's spare room, attempting to launch an online store for ethically sourced aura-cleansing smudge sticks. Sales, I'm told, are not brisk. Her free spirit apparently requires constant subsidization. And me? I am genuinely well. My beige prison is now a sanctuary of peace. I've repainted, upgraded my sound system, and rediscovered hobbies Gabriella had dismissed as uninspired. I'm focusing on my career, reconnecting with friends, and even tentatively exploring the dating scene again, this time with a keen eye for genuine partnership over performative freedom. My finances are secure. My dignity is intact. The most potent revenge wasn't an explosion of anger, but the calm, methodical accumulation of truth. It was the click of Mr. Howard's camera, the precise language of Ms. Leslie's legal filings, the undeniable weight of Gabriella's own choices staring back at her from that mediation table. She demanded a life free of responsibility, funded by my labor. She received instead a one-way ticket to the consequences of her actions. Her spectacular entitlement collided with immovable reality, and reality, as it tends to do, won decisively. She dramatically took off her ring, expecting a chase, a plea, a continuation of her comfortable life under new terms. I simply nodded, hired professionals, and allowed her free spirit the full and unencumbered opportunity to self-destruct. And the look on her face when Mr. Howard's comprehensive, photographically illustrated report was laid bare? That, my friends, was a masterpiece of pure, unadulterated, and deeply satisfying karmic justice. Good riddance to Gabriella and her conveniently expensive free spirit.